Welcome to a webinar that is an experiment. We teamed up with Day 21 and we just hit an enormous amount of registrations. We're going to have a part of presentation. We're going to kick off with Kasper, followed by me, followed by Katrine, followed by Fanny, and then we're going to actually turn into a more conversational style where you can all ask questions. So hold off with the questions, write them down. If you can't hold them, put it to the chat. And the nice thing is, while we are talking, to actually run a side conversation in the chat. So you can gossip in the chat, you can comment on each other. It's actually quite fun. And my colleague Joe is here as well. He will also monitor the chat while we are talking. So if you ask questions, he will do his best to answer any questions that you can't answer among yourself. But we are such a capable group of people. That is just fantastic. I can't wait anymore. So I pass it on to Kasper to kick us off.
Thank you, Mark. I'll do my best. I'll do a brief introduction of myself. My name is Kasper. I'm a founder of Day 21 consultancy based in Copenhagen, working with experience design, strategy, journey management here among, which we're going to talk about today. So really looking forward to this, and I'm really glad I'm allowed to have the first say in this, so I can pass the word on to smarter people in the end. But I'm just gonna share my screen for a bit. Let's see. Hopefully you can see it by now.
Yes, that's looking good.
Great. Okay. So we're talking about moving from journey mapping to journey management, but I'm going to start by zooming a bit out here the first 10 minutes. I'm going to talk a bit about what brought us here, because, I mean, why can we gather more than 300 people today at a journey management webinar? And I mean, in many ways, it starts here. I'm not going to take you through 30 years towards customer centricity excellence, but the important part here is that within the last, let's say, 15 years, we've seen customer centricity as a central part of corporate strategy. The customer was suddenly everywhere because someone figured out that if you align your business with customers, you earn a lot of money. And that's usually quite interesting for top management. So we see strategies built around this, but at the same time, we also see this. Maybe a lot of you recognize this, that investments in customer focusing digital products and so forth, it's increasing forever. You get more and more channels, you get more and more complexity, you get expensive data projects and so forth. And that could be fine if it weren't like for the other part here, which is about, I mean, the perceived experience among customers is not increasing in the same way. So we have an experience gap, you could call it, which is also becoming an economic gap, because if your customers doesn't follow along with your investment, you have a basic problem. And just to prove my point, we can ask Forrester, who says 80% of leaders say they are customer centric, 3% of the customers agree. So I mean, this confirms that we have a gap between our investments and the effect of it. So what has this to do with customer journey management? Well, let's start to say, I think all companies would like to, that if we say you can increase your revenue by 10 to 50%, you can lower your cost to serve with 15 to 20%. I think that's a dream for everybody working in strategy and with corporate effects. So this come from the numbers come from McKinsey, who did a study last year on companies focusing on journeys and excellent in customer journeys. So I mean, this is not just for fun. We can actually create a lot of results by working with customer journeys. So let's move on to this. So a part of the problem we talked about before, that the customers doesn't experience all the hours and money we invest into this. I mean, a lot of it is about that customers do not think in silos, which is really annoying, but that's the result. So I mean, we see so many of our clients. We work mostly with larger companies, enterprise companies, and we see they're so good at measuring the app experience, the advisory experience, onboarding, and so forth. They are in shared up in silos, and they can have super numbers in each silo. I mean, great NPS scores, numbers in all their different products. But when you measure on the end-to-end experience, it's often quite bad because companies are not very good in handling end-to-end experience and the complexity that a customer goes through. So, and for many years, we tried to come over this by working with our customer maps, the journey mapping. But I mean, we all know the problem of this. I guess I see a lot of you in the chat are working in service design and UX and so forth. So you probably also did a lot of this. But the problem is that you you have a lot of one and stop, I think you called it, Mark, at some point. But you get the maps, you probably solve the problem, you get some insights, and afterwards it dies. It dies with the people, it dies with the in the drawer of in the PowerPoint at the server. Anywhere, it's really hard to make it living and to make a continuous improvement. And basically one of the problems is also that the market keeps moving. It's super annoying. People keep getting new habits. People get new expectations, and if we don't move along with that, we aren't really getting anywhere. We are just losing market share or losing money. So somebody came up with a great idea to do a journey management software. Luckily, we have some of them here today, which is going to talk a lot more about this. But I mean, this is the first paradigm shift within the customer focus, I think, because suddenly we can work in a dynamic tool. We can keep enriching our journeys with our insights. They don't disappear in reports. We can move it in here. We can follow sentiment. We can put in data. We can do all these things and work continuously with creating our products, with creating our end-to-end experience for the market. So I mean, we're going to talk a lot about today that that it's more about people than about tools, but the tool has been the first step many places because I mean everybody working in UX has seen the need for making this a dynamic content tool. So the thing is, then you're thinking, okay, I want to go into journey management. I want to do this because I see the need, I see the problem in having static customer journeys or customer journey mapping. The thing is, we need to think of this as an operating model. You have the tool now, you have the map, which you can continuously improve. You can see dependencies across journeys on macro and micro level. I know the other's going to talk a lot more about that. But the thing is, this gives us, if this needs to work, we need a new operating model where we continuously can put in external focus. I mean, in the time of a lot of data, quantitative data, we tend to forget that we need to feed this with qualitative data, with observations and so forth. We need a model for continuously enriching our map and our customer experience. But we also need an internal focus because what we see when we work with our clients is that every time you see a connected journey, you realize that where the problem is often at our internal processes. So to fix things, we need to update our internal processes. So we need a continuously internal focus to align with what the market tells us to do. And this is basically an operating model that we need to involve the company in to get the results we want from this. So you can say journey management is a unified operation, and I think we're going to see a lot of points about this for the next half hour or so. So before I pass the word on in 2 minutes, you can say, well, we came from journey mapping. It was very good at diagnosing, visualizing, but it became static. It also became project-based, where we now move into continuously prioritization, managing. We have a systematic practice and a continuously operating model to do it better all the time, which means we can also accumulate the investments and the value we get from this. What's super important that we also, and we're going to talk more about that. We can have a defined governance. We can have clear roles. We can have clear ownerships, which means we can also work much closing the gap between strategy and execution, because we can connect this directly to our roadmaps. We can connect it to initiatives all the way from strategy to what our products actually look like. And of course, we have the option to connect it to real-time data, to investment feedback, and so forth. So we're moving from the siloed metrics, the anecdotal metrics often we see, to actually have real data, to actually share a vision of data across the organization. So to sum up, I think this is why we see the big paradigm shift right now, and so much interest in different parts of companies and of top management, that this can actually provide us with a whole new operating model for increased earnings and reduced cost to serve. So with these words, I'm gonna give the word to you, Mark, to tell us a bit more about what is journey management exactly when looking into the mouth of the beast.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kasper, for that first part to get us started. Now, I jump into I have the task to basically explain how journey management works in 10 minutes, which is impossible, but I do my best and try to bring it to the point as much as I can. I want to start with a misconception many people have. Like, there are different understandings and different use cases for journey maps. And we're actually working on unlocking that even more and changing the whole language around it. But what I'm talking about for the last 10 years is the difference between a workshop map, where the map itself is not so important, where you invite real customers to work with sticky notes on the wall or on whiteboarding tools like MyRemule and so on. This is often part of research, of prototyping. The map is not so important. It's rather what people share during these sessions. But some people, if you say journey map, that is what they're thinking about. And it's really important to understand there are at least three different use cases. And it makes sense to clarify what kind of use case we're talking about when we talk about a journey map. The second one is if you use a journey map as part of a project. You might use it to collect all your research data, to find patterns in the data, to spin off future state maps, to plan ahead. It's also the first step where you bring in the company, the business perspective. Maybe you build service blueprints, which is basically a journey map with adding internal processes to it. But the difference is, you don't build a governance structure around these project maps. After the project, they end in the drawer and you're not using them anymore. And that is the key difference to the third kind of maps, which started around 10 years ago, or even without software, 15 years ago. There are cases where people run journey management on paper on walls in their office 15 years ago. But the main difference there is we maintain these management maps. There's a governance structure. We use them continuously and we use them for decision making. We're not talking about building a design system. We're talking about impacting and changing the decision system of the organization. Now, if we look into those management maps, the key difference is we add live metrics to it, so linking to live data. So they become kind of a dashboard where you see metrics in context. We add qualitative research to a journey. Think about any research you're doing or condensed version of it like a pain point. And you can use these to connect the different silos in the organization. If more people have access to a journey management system, they want to add a pain point, they suddenly realized, oh, this pain point already exists. They can look into this and see, is this pain point already linked to an opportunity? Is this linked to underlying data? So they can explore all the links all the way to, is a team already working on a solution for this? This is what we do on a journey level, but then we link journeys into each other, building a hierarchy of maps, sometimes called a journey atlas or something like this. Now, what you need to define are the different zoom levels, similar like we know zoom levels for maps in geography. On Google Maps, you can zoom out on a continent, a level 0 journey, a life cycle map. You don't see details, but you get a good picture. Then you can zoom into details. Now, often people think you need to build the full atlas, the full hierarchy to get started, but that's wrong. You can start wherever you can have impact fastest on the customer and then build the hierarchy from there. See which maps are nested, what is the next higher level around it. So how you build it then is a hierarchy of maps, an atlas where you see how journey maps are nested into each other. And all these visuals, you already see which maps currently have the most pain points, or we're working on the most opportunities. Who's in charge of it? What is what we call the journey performance indicator, like those green boxes where you see these maps are healthy. Some organizations zoom out and collect it all on one view to really get a bird's eye view on all of their maps and see, using color coding, which of these are healthy, which ones we're monitoring, which ones we're working on right now, who's in charge of it. So again, talking about the governance structure, who is in charge of which map. Now, just to show you different variation of how such a hierarchy can look like. This is an example of a lifecycle map. So level 0 journey, where a bank visualized all the different legal entities, the different departments with their respective leading product journey across the customer lifecycle. This is also what we typically see in public services. Really, it starts with you're born, which public services do you use, all the way cradle to cradle until the end of your journey. Now, there are other visualization types now coming up where it's more dimensional, because we often talk about branching a journey, so you can connect what we call a flow hierarchy, where you also connect them with each other and see what are alternative journeys, what are choices we're having, maybe different channels, and you have different teams being responsible for these journeys, so you can visualize these. And what you see here, this simple flow hierarchy example, at the bottom, we also connect projects map in. So remember, project maps are journey maps that are based on research. You collect a lot of research and knowledge into these maps, but you don't want that they end up in the drawer. So bring them into the system, make them available to others. Even though you don't maintain them and keep them up to date, it's really useful to stand on the shoulders of this previous research instead of doing everything from scratch if you want to do a new journey for a specific aspect. Now, when I talk about the governance structure and how to operationalize this, it's not only an information system that we can use to understand what is going on, but we actually put this into action. We want to use it to take decisions and iteratively improve the experience of customers, of employees, of patients, whatever you focus on, citizens. So it's a continuous customer experience management system. That's why we like to call it an operational system. Journey OS, if you like to say. And how it works is you're building this hierarchy of maps. Start small, it can scale over time, so you can zoom in and out. You add a layer of data on it. Think about qualitative data, research, pain points, opportunities, insights. Think of quantitative data, KPIs, metrics, but also think about your organizational data. What are the projects you're working on? The projects you're planning? What are different, who's in charge of which part of the map, and things like this. And then you can add another layer on it. You see these little dots appearing. That's what we call the journey performance indicator. That helps you to compare journeys with each other, because you measure the success of a journey depending on what kind of journey it is. You might need different data on the journey, but to compare journeys with each other, you need a simple system like this traffic light system to understand which part of our whole atlas, of our whole hierarchy are okay and where do we have an issue. Now, if we're using this for prioritization, we typically use a different visualization. So we move from one journey and take the data of one journey, or from multiple journeys, let's say all journeys of level 1, and take all the pain points, all the opportunities into a portfolio. So you can really do portfolio management like we're doing it in management for decades already. And that helps you with improving your decision making. Now, it's really important that in the end, there's a human taking the decision. Don't let AI take the decision for you. Someone needs to be responsible for it, but use all the technology to help you with taking more educated decisions. If you take decisions, you also want to follow up. You want to see, are we making progress on our decisions? Do we have impact with the decisions that we did? For that, you can again revisualize it into a Kanban view, for example, where you see all the pain points of a specific team, of a map, and see where are we with this in our process. Is this something we didn't start? Is it something we still need to prioritize? Or is it something we've done already and we can now monitor if we see the impact that we intended? Now, I want to end with this slide because I think there's a misconception, even a fetishism, that people think once we get a journey management tool in there, we are done. No, you're not. The tool is 10%, 90% is people. It's the governance structure around it. It's handling people. So one of the key skills remain facilitation, dealing with people, making sure we take decisions and follow up on them. And we're going to see some nice examples of that later on. That's it from me. I pass on to Katrine. Oh, wow, 10 minutes. Bang on time.
Boom, that's really, really good. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Katrine. I am partner in Day 21 and a journey management specialist. I've helped different organizations get started with and succeed with journey management. But actually, I'm on maternity leave right now. So if I seem a bit distant, it's just because my baby keeps me up all night. So I'll apologize in advance, but I'm super excited to be here. So let me
You need to apologize for that. That is the best reason in the world.
He's also really sweet. So let me see if you can see my screen. I think
Yes,
you
we can.
Great. Let me just do like this so you can see it like that. Okay. So what to map and when? Now it's going to be more away from the journey management software and more into the operation that lies behind the software. So think big, start small, scale fast. It's probably not the first time you've heard this saying, but it's definitely worth repeating when we're talking about journey management. It is a practice that will somehow change how your colleagues and the organization perceive the organization with this outside-in perspective. And it's most likely also something that will change or at least modify your operations. So that's why we need to have this approach. I'm just briefly going to introduce these three areas here and dive deeper into them afterwards. So think big doesn't mean that you have to map everything, as Mark pointed out earlier, but you have to create somehow an overview that can help you prioritize where to start. So you can call it a journey atlas, a journey portfolio, a journey framework. It has different names, but it's just important that you have this overview. And I'll tell you one way to approach how to do this. Start small by selecting one high-level journey, one that stretches across more than one domain, and one with a strategic importance where you can actually create impact within a reasonable period of time. And use this journey for your first journey sprint or pilot or whatever you want to call it. Then scale fast, but of course not faster than you can follow. But scale fast to avoid being known as the apartment over there that does journey management. You want it to be a broader organizational capability and not just one journey within, X departments. Okay, but let's go through each of these. So how to create your first journey atlas. It is something that will evolve over time because that as well is dynamic. So what we usually do, and I have to say there's so many different ways to do this, but what we usually do is to map the life cycles, if you have more, but only focus on the horizontal story. We don't want you to create all the context yet. And by that, I mean, don't find all the insights and opportunities and solutions, but that just get an overview of what do our customers go through. That will be your anchor holding everything beneath. When you have this, try to identify sub-journeys, macro journeys, but don't go into the specifics beneath that. And just a bit of a tip here, try to think outside in. So instead of, for instance, saying, if I'm a customer in a car brand, it could be Volvo, don't call it the purchase experience, but call it, I want to try drive a car, or I want to buy this car. It often starts with a need, and the journey ends when that need is fulfilled, because then you have the macro level and you also have the customer perspective and not only the inside out perspective. When you have this hierarchy and try to keep it simple, you should involve your organization, and that could be people from the data department or other people that can provide data to your journey atlas. Where do we see challenges today? Where do we see red dots? What does this journey cost to serve versus the other one? And where do we see churn, or where do we see potential for retention? And all of these numbers are just really good adding to all of these journeys, macro journeys. But also involve your organization to shape the life cycle and to enrich all the sub journeys, because when you ask the organization, there will be different answers to this. So the earlier you engage your colleagues, the better this gets, because then they know what's going on and they see themselves in this image you're about to create. Then you're at the data or the metrics, the ones I talked about before. It's really good to kind of see where you should start, where you see the biggest challenges or the biggest possibility to improve. And then it's also really important to identify involved domains or departments, because when you have to prioritize where to start, you also need to know who will be involved. And that can be all from legal and IT to specific departments that are engaged with customers, such as service support or product and so on. So try to identify who delivers directly or indirectly to the journeys. Then you can also add more elements if needed, like user segments, what products are included in these journeys. But again, try to keep it simple, because otherwise it can take months to create this. And we want to get started with our sprint. So how to approach your first sprint? When you have this overview, you find the journey that matters most and one that aligns with your strategy. And I cannot underline this enough. You cannot focus on a journey that you don't know will have an impact within a reasonable period of time. And if you choose a journey that aligns with the strategy, you know there will be buy-in for different initiatives, and there's probably already things aligned on the roadmap that you need to handle. But when you have the map, you should define your governance framework. And this is very, very different from organization to organization, depending on how you're structured. But one way to do it is you have a journey manager, and the journey manager is key for succeeding. The journey manager is the one standing in the middle, making sure that you push and pull between this external and internal focus. So you drag knowledge and wisdom and insights and data from the internal focus to the map. You learn from the external focus, from the customers, from the journeys, behavioral data. You push in again and prioritize what to solve and how, and then it just loops. So the journey manager is really, really important here, like a project manager. Then you have a journey owner, and the journey owner can be the journey manager's superior, but something with a more strategic focus. Are we aligned with the strategy? Are we holding our time? And so on. And then, of course, you have all the involved domains that are already delivering to the journey. When will they be involved and how? Then, of course, you have to map and build your journey framework. And this is an iterative process, I would say. So, journey mapping. The journey framework is more within the journey management system. So you will have different templates, streamlined processes, way of prioritizing, but you can't define it all from the start. You will experience that this will change when you start the process, because it also has to align with what is happening in the organization. Then ensure organizational alignment. Invite your colleagues to see the map, to enrich it. And if you don't want them to go into the software, find another way to share the stories through PowerPoints or whatever you want to. But make sure that it aligns with the organization. Then embed it into existing workflows and rituals. You cannot go out and say, now we have to change the way we prioritize. Now we need 2 meetings every week where we all meet to talk about the journey, because that's my need as a journey manager. But it's not your colleagues' needs at all. You need to motivate them and engage them naturally through existing ceremonies, rituals, meetings, and then shape the practice as you go. So find out how you can naturally integrate journey management, the insights, the opportunities and solutions, without going in and changing everything from day one, because that's just an utopian dream. That's not reality. Then observe, listen, and adjust. It's really, really important. I've done this for years, keeping a journey diary. So I write down from day one what happened, when did we have these aha moments, how did different departments suddenly came to talk together, and how did they improve different things together. So keep this diary, because that will help you later on to go and form the process in a better way. And it is, you should, of course, adjust along the way as well. So share stories and impact. So when you start to improve things, to get things prioritized, and you have different domains accountable for delivering these different small wins and big wins, whatever. And when they're launched, you will see an effect in the journey, hopefully. Something has improved, both for the customer, for the business, money-wise, and for the different departments, the workflows and collaboration and so on. Share these stories and share the impact. And just to say it, you're not you do not have a journey-driven operating model when you released the first outcomes from your journey. You need to continue, because you're not done shaping the practice. So that's just a little hint, because I've tried it so many times that, yay, we did it. Now we do journey management, and then a month after it just dies. So you have to continue. You have to also think about the strategic focus, but I'll come back to that. So, when and how to scale? The sprint has simply turned into a practice. So you've reached the goals that you set from the start. Maybe you've already fixed some friction points, but now it's an ongoing practice. Your journey informs both operation and strategy, meaning that you can do things right now that are more easy. We call them quick wins or whatever. But you also have some big bets that demands more team to collaborate to do something large. So now it also has to inform the strategy. So have these quarterly meetings where you pile up all of these things and discuss them with the executives, or creating business cases to really move the needle. Your colleagues, they're engaged and they're proactive. So I think you wrote, Mark, that if a colleague suddenly realize that they haven't heard from you in a time, they're like, hey, what is happening? What is going on? What should we do now? So when people start to write the journey manager or request things, it's because this is a need and this is something that we're doing now. And then, of course, you've proven its value and impact, not only for the customer experiences, but also from a business perspective. And how to expand? You should expand with one or more journeys, again, high level. And when you start your sprint, you find out eventually that there are so many requests for, can we map this and can we map this? So you'll kind of discover that it will evolve organically, but you have again turn to your atlas and try to be strategic. And maybe it's a journey that affects the one you're already running, but it can also be a whole other area within your business. Then you have to onboard and align with new colleagues or stakeholders, team. There's a new journey manager probably and a journey owner probably, but there will definitely be more stakeholders or domains that you need to align with. And this is both for the software itself, the journey management platform, but also in terms of prioritization, rituals, and so on. Then expand governance, meaning that now you have an extra layer of complexity in regards of governance. So should we share common goals? Should we have individual goals? And how do we organize ourselves around journey management now that it is expanding? And then again, do observe, listen, and adjust, because when you add that extra layer of governance, things will change. So it's not set in stone from day one. It's something that will evolve over time. And that's really important to take into account when you get started with journey management. And that will be my final word.
Fantastic. Thanks, Katrine. Brilliant. And we are moving to the final part, and the best is yet to come, because we thought instead of us talking about cases, we invite someone who's actually practicing doing it and right in the middle of scaling this. So I'm really happy to have Fanny with us from Velux, sharing her perspective from how to actually run this and maybe also sharing how not to run it. Fanny, off to you.
Yoo-hoo! Thank you, Mark, for this intro. I'm really glad to see everyone and so many faces I know in the call. So hey, yeah. So I'll show a little behind the scene what we do at Velux, or a teeny part. I'm Fanny, as Mark said. I'm a UX strategist at Velux, and it's been 3 years that I'm in the Velux headquarters. Right now, sitting in the team that is behind the website, the web experience, which is live across more than 30 markets. And previously, I was in the team called Global Advisory Service, was the team that was behind the new service B2C, which is very new for Velux to be B2C. So I'm part of that shift. I bring 10 years of experience in the field of service design and have experience across working various sectors and types of organizations, from the least silos to the most siloed. Work with government. But so I would say Velux is in between. And I also bring with me a study baggage with lots of methodologies, and that helps a lot to be structured in my work and confident about what I do. And how it all started at Velux is thanks to Benedikt Louise Ringsted-Grønner, who hired the first journey manager, customer journey designer, and that is Veronica Capra on the right side. And then quickly was joined with two others, me and Gaia. So we've been the three Italian-French group going around praising journey management, and we keep on expanding the group across departments. So couldn't put the face of everybody. I would have had to go around and ask for permission. That would have been just too long. So instead, what I will talk about today is the relationship between mapping scope, so the scope of the map, the team setup, the relationship with stakeholders, and then time to execution. I hope that's a topic you find interesting and where I hope you will relate as well to challenges we faced. And you'll see it's a lot of what Kasper and Katrine and Mark talked about before. We did some of the mistakes, exactly those ones. Back to the first year when I was started in Velux, I was put into a team that had there was the mission to rethink what are the next steps, improvements for one of the services. There were 2 services. We focused on one, and we looked at all scenarios. And mapping happened within 1 quarter, together with the long-term vision. It was driven by one project leader, who was a consultant, plus 3 consultants, plus me as a customer journey designer, and then a steering group with a main decision maker, one top manager. That was super fast process. And then going into execution, we had a bit of challenges there because stakeholders had been across markets, been very little involved, let's say, superficially. So the mapping had been done very effectively, great vision, but then going into execution, it was a bit more tricky to then get buy-in from stakeholders to prioritize the changes that were prioritized by the team. Then a second round where the consultants left, and I ended up, so to say, alone to do the same as what they did, but on my own with one project manager who was there with me like maybe quarter of her time. And then had to, of course, think of 10 markets across Europe and do this whole exercise for not 1 but 2 services. And then cover all the topics, all the scenarios, all at one. That was a monster of a mapping exercise, which then went through over 2 quarters. So that in itself, exactly what Katrine said, don't do that. Don't go and take all the journeys at the same time. But we did, and maybe we do because of this holistic thinking, thinking that if we don't take it all at once and we leave some pieces, then we are not holistic. And there was also a part about that came from a push from the markets, actually, who wanted to make sure that we in global understand their realities, because there were a lot of different nuances across markets, and they really wanted us to understand what is special within each market, and us showing that we had mapped it all could somehow establish that trust relationship. It helped a little bit, but not to the extent we would have wished. In that cycle, we also then used the whole quarter to define what the long-term vision and short-term plans would be. And then going into business requirements, we attacked all products at the same time. So then that means that between the moment we started mapping and the moment we started executing on what we identified needed to be done, it went almost a year. Yeah, a year. So that was not ideal. Then a big shift in the organization happened, a new strategy. The teams were shuffled, and I ended up in a new team, the web experience team, and they never had people like me in it. So here the setup is I'm one UX strategist, one project manager with me who is then driving the execution part, 5 UX UI designers, a UX analyst as well, 10 stakeholders, and then top management for final prioritization. I'll get into the core team setup again after, because I think that's pretty key. And here, so instead of going with all the journeys at the same time, we mirrored exactly and base our work on the strategy, the new strategy, which has, I can't reveal the strategy of Velux, but there are 4 topics. And we said, okay, we'll go through attack one journey at a time, and do an initial mapping, not a perfect mapping, and then squeeze that within 1 quarter and involve the 10 stakeholders within that quarter with an amount of involvement that feels committable, because we had that problem as well where inviting people to too long or too many workshops, it didn't fly. Too many calendars to putting together, and people being extremely busy, they couldn't prioritize it. So here, a sweet spot and actually worked really well. 2 workshops of 2.5 hours, fully online for everybody, plus 1 final presentation. So that's the new package of like ritual that we sold and that we are doing every quarter. So after the mapping starts the execution right away, and then a monitoring activity that happens on this in parallel as well. Then the idea, quarter 2, we go into the second topic, quarter 3, the third topic, quarter 4, fourth topic. By the end of the year, we have mapped all the journeys, the key strategic journeys, and we have a backlog, our full backlog of what should be done to improve the web experience. Reality again, and then the idea was then next year we consolidate the mapping with the new insights we've got in between, because we have in Velux a whole team dedicated to going and do user research at scale. So we take their insights and work like this. But here, reality hit again. And before I jump to the next one here, so if you look at now, if I was to start in Q3, another mapping, I have at the same time 2 journeys that I need to monitor, plus following up the teams we're executing on those items, and need to start a new mapping exercise, and that involves more or less the same stakeholders every time. But more importantly, the team didn't have time to pump up the resources for following with, okay, now you've identified 10 things and prioritized 3. We have the resource for doing that, but then if we double it up the next quarter, we can't follow along. So there's always this like dance between the speed of identifying what is it that we should do next, and then the resources we have to actually be able to execute on the prioritized items. So we thought our plan, and also by connecting with different spots in the organization, realized that the topic 3, a lot of time. The topic 3 was already covered slightly, so we had that our mind calm, so we could push it to then next year, just a consolidation, and then push the 4th topic to next year. All of this in alignment with top management. priorities, and then instead then leave time to 2 quarters for execution on 2 of the topics. Then I don't have time to go into this, but do I? Like a quick...
Yeah, go for it. Come on,
Yeah.
it's good. We record it. If someone needs a drop, that's fine. But I think it's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay. So the core team, and this is mirrored for so I'm not even taking care of the whole website. There are 2 sections, a B2C and a B2B. I'm taking care of the B2C, and then my colleague Veronica is taking care of the B2B. And we have this more or less the same setup. So we are the UX strategist. We're owning the journey mapping, driving the prioritization process. Then we have a project manager with us who's owning the relationship with the markets and making sure that that things are rolling, and doing all these calendar things on the side that can take so much time and then eaten your capability to work on journey mapping. So I'm really full-time journey mapping. And then we have a consultant for now. Hopefully will be an in-house person soon, who is setting up the monitoring part of the journey health. And also she has 2 arms. She's also establishing, maintaining the relationship with IT, making sure that with the things we know that are in backlog now, IT resources will be secured. And then we work hand in hand with the digital CX architect or slash designers who design the solutions and work with web development. And then a UX analyst is always here also out by our side to analyze user behaviors on the website. And then top management who has a final say. We send recommendations and they give their final say. There will be so much more to say about how we do this process of prioritization and how we involve stakeholders throughout this process. But this is our 7-step, so to say, process, which we map all within 7 to 8 weeks. That's the cycle, and Snaply comes into play here, where all of the assets journey, the critical pain points, the opportunities, the existing solutions, and the global actions we're prioritizing are all mapped in a clear line of sight between each other. Yes, so much more. Key takeaways. So with this way of working, we go from being firefighters to preventive care. So from reactive to proactive, it's not longer stakeholders who identify problems and send them to us, all with high urgency priority. It's us who become owners of the problem identification and analysis, and we drive the prioritization process. So that makes everyone a bit more calm, actually. Yes, more key takeaways. You can read them on your own. And I'll respect the time. It's 11:59 mark, so I'll give the mic to you again.
Oh, Fanny, first of all, thank you so much. Can we give a round of Zoom applause for Fanny? If we all wiggle our hands like this, wiggle them. Come on, wiggle, 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 wiggle. There it is. All right, all right. Well, there's one key learning for me, that is we need more time. Like especially the last bit, I saw the faces were going like, how does it work? So I think if that's cool, we might do this again and plan for a bit more time in the end. But we still have time. At least some of us can hang out a bit longer. And I would like to move from presenting to a more conversational partner. And for that, first of all, if you have a question, just raise your hand, and then we can take questions one by one for everyone who can stay. I know some need to drop, and that's fine. Are there any questions?
I have fun. I mean, I think this is really wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. I think it's also nice and refreshing, as I wrote there. Oh, I'm not the only one, like in my team and, the work of, okay, how do we handle our teams, our colleagues, our country stakeholders, business stakeholders, tech stakeholders, put them together and then actually make it happen. And then while we're making it happen, I was discussing with my colleague as well, a lot of what you were sharing is what we're doing. And I was like, yes, that's also good confirmation. But I see the KPI topic or the JP, how do you call it? Like the journey measurement point. I would say that's a big challenge. How to make it so many of the journeys are probably not interconnected. Of course, if there are sub journeys, they do. But I was just curious to hear about a bit about that. How do you actually see it? If even if Fanny has examples as well, because I would say it's the bigger challenge to show, especially higher management. Why do we keep running a journey management program? That's the key. So to show, okay, look, a year later, we actually now see some results of the previous work that we did. And yeah, I just wanted to hear about that.
Thanks, Maria. Fanny, do you want to comment on that?
Yes. Hey, Maria. It's good to see you. I agree. It's a really challenging part, and we're still trying to crack it. And to crack it, we have put together the consultant who is working with me on establishing something that connects the journey health and not just specific touch points or specific items within the journey. That's, I think, a shift from what was done before. And together with the UX analyst, and also the people in the company who do have extensive Power BI dashboard and do tracking of very key KPIs that everybody cares about in the company. So that's the constellation, and then together we're setting something up, also with regions with us. And it's not done yet, so I cannot show you what it's like. But a way, though, towards this is all the items that we've been putting as recommendations. It starts from pain points, actually. Pain points, opportunities, and recommended actions. They have a tag with which KPI it moves. So if it's starting from the pain point, where is it that which KPI is it affecting? And then the opportunity, which KPI will it potentially improve? And then the recommended solution, the same. And these little tags are always visible on the cards, and that's also how we make decisions for prioritization. So then it's those same KPIs, but then more specific metrics to measure the narrow performance, and how we put it together. That's the whole puzzle we're setting up now.
Thank you. And that's basically in Smaply where you are mentioning, right?
Yes. Smaply and pulling data from Power BI.
Just a brief comment, maybe, because I think this is a quite important issue, because there's so many ways of measuring this. As you say, Fanny, the BI part, the whole KPI part, super important. But what we also see when working with our clients is that often we start up with doing a business case. And I say this with love to all you CX and UX people here, but there's also somewhere where we need to seek help. And I mean, we see often that when starting this, I mean, go down to finance, say, can I borrow a finance partner to do the business case? Say, okay, how much can we free of resources in money if we free 10 FTEs in this process and so forth? I mean, I think we have to broaden the perspective on how we calculate these models of revenue from journeys. And often people think it's quite fun to be it, even finance people think that it can be quite fun, and they have numbers we do not have, and we can practice in asking the right questions to them, like we have to do with the Power BI people. And so definitely recommend that to include them in the team in some way.
Maybe a little add-on to that. Fantastic. And try to find costs that are directly associated to a pain point. Like how many support tickets, how much additional work, because something is not working, it adds to the back office and so on. If you can find these numbers that are directly associated to the pain point, because with any other metrics, people always say, yeah, but there are so many factors influencing that, blah, blah, blah. Anything that is directly impacted, that is out of question. And then you can actually calculate return of investment. Other questions?
Bring it on.
Nastasia, good to see you.
Hi, Mark.
For anyone who don't know it, Nastasia was the one who just brought This is Service Design Doing into life in Ukraine, in the Ukrainian translation of it, just launched a couple of weeks ago. Fantastic job you've done. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Mark, for promo. Good if you could know Ukrainian and buy book, but okay, it's not today. Yeah, so I have several before questions. It's amazing that you did this webinar. So just really like it's what people need in Ukraine, at least very much, because we just started kind of journeys management, like a lot of companies. And my questions, maybe like three together. Yes, first, how do you manage with change management in the organizations if company doesn't use journeys, yes, and service design? How do you integrate in these journeys? Second, I will send in chat how long it takes from initial mapping to measurable results, maybe even small but better, bigger, and who usually drive execution and KPI tracking?
Can I start?
Yes, Katrine, please.
I think change management is really an odd size because it also depends how you structure all the governance and so on. But I think it's different. And Fanny, feel free to interrupt. But I think it's different from organization to organization how much the journey map, like the system, what role that plays. Because in some organizations it's only the journey manager who sees the system, but she translates the stories into the organization through PowerPoints or whatever that exist already, because you cannot force the organization to open the map. Maybe it works for a week, but then they don't do it anymore. At least that's my experience. So find a way to share the insights and integrate it into the organization. That would be my first tip. And for the journey manager, there is a change of habit. Like every time something happens in a meeting or every time you have insights and data, you have to be very structural to put it into the journey and use that as a document. So that's a change of habit, that you have to use that now instead of a Word document or whatever. And I think for the next one, what was that again? The next question?
How long it takes from initial mapping workshop, yes, to measurable results?
If we don't count the atlas in, I would say you can do it in 3 months. If you have these quick wins, that could be seriously just an email where you need to move the register button up because everybody is on mobile. And regarding of who's delivering, who's executing, it's domain accountability, if you can say that. So you have different people in different departments that are accountable for delivering to the journey, because it is their job to maybe change that landing page or to change that email flow. So our job as journey managers or whatever is to inform them and feed insights into how they prioritize and what to do, if that makes sense. And Fanny, please tap in because we have so many different experiences across organizations.
No, but yes, exactly. The part about translating into the company's language, we use PowerPoint. So we do copy paste a lot and it's not plain copy paste. We adapt to the format, so it's actually readable. and condense and make it more synthesized. So it's not the exact same. There will be just double work, but a different format. And then about you said 3 months. Do you think 3 months is feasible? We managed this year to go from starting mapping to going into execution within 3 months. The key is to make sure that as you're starting your process, that the resource for executing is in place from the start. Because if you wait that you're done with mapping to then set up, find who is going to then execute on what was found, then you waste a lot of time. And also because those people who will execute in, they need to be involved in your mapping. At least that's what we do in Velux, and that makes the handover phase not a handover phase, but more of a switch to a different phase from mapping, identifying, prioritizing to executing.
Thank you.
I hope that answers your question, Anastasia.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I also think of a little tip, like choose something that is already on the roadmap, because then you know that people are actually going to do this, but you can inform what's being delivered so it can be better. So that's also something saying that this is a real journey, this is happening, and we're already delivering to it. So we can, of course, also inform that execution so it will be better. And another tip, try to team up with someone from Power BI or whatever early, because you might need to track something you don't have now. So we've experienced like, okay, we need to track the sign-up flow, and they were like, oh, we don't have that. Okay, then we need to set it up. And the data team was, yay, we have to do something that is exciting and we can actually measure over time. So team up with the triangulation between finance and tech and CX, because then you really have something there. So you ensure that you can actually measure impact when you release new solutions.
Thank you so much for your answers and tips. Very helpful.
There was a question in the chat that I just read out loud. Question. When you join a new team company that uses journey maps differently than you are used to, how do you adapt? Well, I give a shot for a quick answer. Like I explained, there are many different use cases. I just mentioned 3, but if you think about how journey maps are used in your organization, even within one organization, there are loads and loads of variations. Like, what kind of data do you visualize? Which tool do you use? Do you focus on a journey map for communication? So do you really polish it so it looks good, or is it more a tool that you're working with that is flexible? So there's not the right or wrong way of using a journey map. That's what I'm saying. So learn how the team is using it and try to understand why they're using it like this. Maybe there's a good reason for it that you can unfold once you dig deeper into the map as a tool. And then, of course, if you see, well, it's not reaching the impact it should have, you can start nudging them and adding maybe just like adding a lane to an existing journey map. So instead of changing everything and saying, you did it wrong, this is how it works right, because then people will hate you and not listen to you. But instead, rather take where they are and maybe add to it. So add a lane to it or consolidate the tools. And instead of having maps in Miro, wherever, focus on one tool, whatever it might be, and then gently add value to it by adding more layers to it. And often one mistake is that people add too much data to a map. So people actually don't understand it. The audience doesn't understand it. So sometimes reducing the amount of information on the journey map is the key to unlock that people understand the value of it. I was longer than I expected. Sorry for that. Other questions? In the chat. Christiania, why can't you talk? Let me try. Why can't you talk? Can you talk now? Can you unmute yourself? Does that work? No, it doesn't. Okay. Okay, it's the environment, not the two. Okay, got it. Sorry. Okay, that was me. Should I read it out? But this time I don't answer it. Okay. Question: how do you plan to split horizontally or drill down vertically the different journey maps in the project? Which criteria? Does that map on org chart? Hope not only, or to what? Which are the different roads possible? I'll leave it to others to comment on that first. And maybe not only the speakers, but everyone who has a thought on it, an educated thought on it. If no one has a thought, then I first play this card. And if that doesn't work, I give an answer.
I need to read the question again, Mark.
Sorry, it was long. Yes. So basically, how do you decide what you map next? And how do you connect it horizontally or vertically into a consistent system?
We took, I can take, speaking from my experience, we took the base, the strategy. And in the strategy, there are 4 key customer situations that are laid out. So this is our starting point. And when we've run out of it, looking into those, we'll see. But I think it's going to take some time. So this is our starting point. And then within that, because there are several scenarios, how do we decide which one to pick or start with? We looked into which journey can we most impact, which journey do we have most impact, and also how much focus does this journey has within the organization as a large. So if we see that in markets, they do care a lot about that specific journey right now, and they're putting a lot of effort on it, then we join the effort as well and align. That was a way to decide.
Fantastic. I would like to add 2 little things to that. Sometimes it helps if you're not looking for the biggest impact journey, but where you can have the fastest impact. So you can prove the impact you're having as quickly as possible, shorten the time of this first case. And then don't try to map out everything at once. Like as Katrine said, it's great to have a vision for it, but that doesn't mean that you need to have this atlas. I know a case of a company that mapped out 300 journeys. No joke. 300 journeys, a huge atlas. I want to ask them, so how many of them do you actually operationalize? So you have a governance structure around it you use for decision making. They said 3. So think about if that is useful. So don't build the whole thing. Start wherever you want. Then you can build on top, build below. And I promise you, if you start with mapping out a whole hierarchy, no matter how much planning you put in there, in a year time, you will realize that you were wrong. It always happens. So start anywhere and build and learn while you go. Other questions?
Not agree more.
Oh, you have to help me. How do I pronounce the name? Is it Arietta?
That's perfect.
Yay!
Beautiful. And you pronounce the T's, so perfect. Thank you, everyone. This is great. I'm in Australia, so great way to spend my evening. There was a question about change management before. I've got a question about product management. How do the dynamics of this play out in organizations that have product managers? Or are there any other particular roles that are either natural allies or tricky stakeholders to get them to understand this is a potential valuable partner to their work?
Brilliant question. Who would like to answer?
I can.
Go for it.
Product design, product owners, we have them, and they're definitely our allies. We are in the same team, and how it works is as a journey manager, we identify overall what should be done. And then it's the product owners who drive the make it happen in details, to be extremely crude and simple here. But that's the divide, I would say. So we inform each other's work as well.
There was, since you're based in Australia, there was a conference on just a few days ago, Mind the Product. And on stage, there was a new manifesto presented where loads of product people came together and a few designers and so on. There was Jerry Scullion part of it. I couldn't help as much as I wanted. But if you read this manifesto, if you go through it, you actually realize that what we're describing there is exactly what we're talking about here. And it goes to an extent where a large bank just renamed their product owners into journey managers because that is their system they're using now for decision making.
I think just to supplement that, I think it's very easy to convince product owners of this because they get it. They come from the same place, and the thing is, the big thing as I see it about journey-led approach is that you contextualize everything, and that's why you get so much better results. And product managers get that. But I mean, besides that, I think you should approach it as a classic stakeholder management drill. You need to involve people at the right time with the right agenda, and I mean, this benefits most people doing this. So it's just a matter of showing the value quite fast. I think it's also related to the things you said before, Fanny and Mike. Say, okay, make sure it's connected to the strategy. Make sure you take the easy wins, the early wins, because then people will follow.
Brilliant. Eugenia just added also in the chat, agile coach is also something to look out for. Totally agree with that. Yes. Siri, you raised your hand for a long time.
Yeah,
Must get
just-
tired.
I'll just find my question again. I can't see if I'm on video now, but I was just wondering for Velux how your innovation process is when you have mapped out the customer journey and seen the pain points. How will you work with the innovation of how to solve the pain points? And another question is that regarding the resources, sometimes you think that it's within this touch points the pain point is, but when you have mapped out the customer journey, you find out maybe it's in the store instead of the online experience and so on. So how do you manage to calculate on the resources beforehand, before mapping out the customer journey?
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for your questions, Siri. So I'll start with the last one. When it's completely true, so I'm part of the web experience team, but when doing that work, of course, I find pain points and opportunities for other touch points, and then I hand them over. So we are all connected and we do talk with each other regularly across the organization. And if it's in a part of the organization I haven't talked to yet, then we reach out. But we then, yes, reach out to them and then present what we found. And then it's up to them to, depending on their own backlog, if they prioritize it or not, and plan the resources for it. So I'm there. I'm not in control of that at all. And then for your other question, the first one. Sorry, can you repeat, Siri?
It was just regarding when you have mapped out the customer journey and seen where the pain points and the opportunities lies. How do you work with the innovation process regarding how to solve the problems or the pain points? So sometimes,
Yes. Yeah. So going into from identification to execution.
Yeah, and ideation as well.
Ideation.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
ideation phase. Yeah.
Yes. I could show some slides or
you
just
just-
talk it out. What we do, so once the stakeholders are involved in generating the opportunities, and then it's within our team, with the selected designers, we brainstorm on the different opportunities. So we look at what is the pain point, where is it in the journey, what are the connected insights, what is the opportunity, and then brainstorm on that. And why it's the designers who do that, because they have a great knowledge also of feasibility and what's possible, and how does the website works, etc. And then once those first we go like wide brainstorm, we go crazy, and then boil it down to the ones with most potential. And then what we do with those is we describe them we use DevOps. So for each thing that needs to be implemented or executed, it goes through that crunching DevOps way of describing items. And so each item gets a card, sometimes several cards. And to help that process, I describe each item within a one-pager. And on each one-pager, I have what are the pain points you should solve? What is the opportunity linked here? And an opportunity, what I mean with opportunity is a how might we statement. How might we help customers to achieve this, so we support the business goal X. So the opportunity, what are the existing solutions that are connected? And then I give indications of potential direction for how it could be done. But I leave that part open because it's up to the designers and people who are working with the product, so the product owners and then the designers working with them, to define how to solve it. I just define the what and the why, and they go all in with the how. And then I also put which stakeholders it affects or should be involved, and the success metrics with the key KPIs, and whether the size also, the estimated size. So it's easy to put into the roadmap what comes first. Yes, I could share the one pager if that helps. But
Fantastic. Well, we're almost half an hour over the planned time. So if it's okay for everyone, I would call it the day for today. But what we take out of this is maybe you would like to have another webinar similar like this, maybe more time for conversations, and we find topics and maybe another example, another case we could show there and discuss more in depth. Thank you so much, Fanny, for joining us today. That was fantastic.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everybody. It was so fun.
Katrine, Kasper, thanks so much for co-hosting this. That was brilliant. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you. See you down the road.